guys, welcome to another episode of the Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. My name is Nick. So I wasn't really planning on doing an extra episode this week. I know I've done extra episodes over the last few weeks, but I was not really planning on doing it this week. And then I just saw this video from Trevor over at Flat Round and Spun. I'll put a link down below to his channel. Make sure you guys go check him out. He started this really cool long album titles thread on his YouTube channel. So I figured I'd put my entry out there for it also. There's a bunch of links down below. Make sure you go check them out. There's links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group. There's also one for our merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlists, and for our Patreon page. So make sure you go check all that out. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time we release new episodes. So there's been a lot of these vinyl threads on the vinyl community over the last few years. And, I passed on most of them. A lot of them kind of have the same kind of feel to them or same kind of theme. And, what Trevor decided to do was something a little bit differently. It's solely based on albums with really kind of crazy long album titles. So make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you think about these albums and other albums out there with long titles also. I got 8 that I'm going to go over today, though. The first one, this was the newest one that's been released, but this was released August 27th, 2021, and that is If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power by Halsey. This is definitely a different album than what Halsey had done before. This was with Trent Reznor. Has a little bit more of an industrial kind of sound to it. It's an album I absolutely love. I think for 2021, it ended up being one of my top 3 or 5 albums of the year. The next one is definitely my favorite punk album with a long title. It was released June 16th, 1998. And of course, that is Slowly Going the Way of the Buffalo by MXPX. I just happen to be wearing their sweatshirt today. But MXPX, they're definitely one of my top 3 bands. I'd say probably them, Blink-182, and Pink Floyd in some kind of order. But Slowly Going the Way of the Buffalo was the album that actually got me into the band back in it was probably shortly after the album came out. So sometime late 98 probably when I first heard this album, and I've really loved it ever since. The funny thing is, the next 2 are actually both released on the same day, November 22nd, 2010. The first one is My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy by Kanye West. I actually think this is probably, I consider 808s, probably Donda, and this album definitely my top 3 favorite Kanye albums. It's one that, if you haven't checked it out, if you're not a huge fan of Kanye West, he definitely did some different stuff on this album that I think a lot of people really like. The next one is, like I said, was released on the same day as My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. And it's an album that's probably not one of my favorite from this band, but it is a really good album in its own right. And that is, I always forget the title of this. This is Danger Days, The True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys. So this was released also on November 22nd. This is by My Chemical Romance. I was a huge fan of the Black Parade. Still am to this day. It is my favorite album by them. But this is definitely some really good tracks on here. There's definitely some tracks on here I can kind of do without. But it's still a really good album. An album that I think really gets lost in this next band's catalog is Tiny Music, Songs from the Vatican Gift Shop by Stone Temple Pilots. This was released March 26, 1996. And when you compare this to their first 2 albums, which is Core and Purple, which are just huge, huge albums, I definitely can see why some people don't hold this album in such high regard. I would say the album that came out after this, which was number 4, was even better album. If you're a fan of Stone Temple Pilots and you've only heard those first 2 albums, definitely check out Tiny Music and definitely check out 4. The next album is one that I've loved since I was a kid. It was released when I think I was 9 years old when this album was released. Actually, I was, because it was released January 31st, 1989. So I hadn't quite turned 10 years old yet. And it's probably the first album that I would thought to myself, well, that's kind of a long title. But that is Dirty, Rotten, Filthy, Stinking Rich by Warrant. One of those albums that, I've grown up listening to and I've loved for a really long time. And this is an album that, I will say that if you are a fan of this album and haven't heard anything really after Cherry Pie, you're really missing out, because Warrant went on to have a really great career, bunch of great albums. Their last 3, I think, were never released on vinyl, so I'd love to see them do not only a reissue of Dirty, Rotten, Filthy, Stinking Rich, but really reissue the entire catalog, and even if they did like a box set or something like that, I think that'd be fantastic. I'm going to end this with 2 classic albums. The first one, this was released June 16th, 1972. It is the classic, the rise and fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. It's an album that I grew up listening to this. I remember my parents listened to not a whole lot of David Bowie, but definitely some David Bowie. I think after the movie Labyrinth was released in the 80s, mid 80s, that I really got deeper into some of David Bowie's music. Ziggy Stardust is definitely one of my top 2 Bowie albums. I'd say this and Last Dance are probably my top 2. And he had a great career, a bunch of great albums. He didn't make a whole lot of stinkers, that's for sure, but this is definitely one of the better ones. Last, but definitely not least, is an album that, it's one of my favorites of all time. It's, it's not the longest title, but it's probably the first one I ever knew of that kind of had a longer title to it. And it was released May 26, 1967. Of course, that is Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. It's, one of the most popular, or if not the most popular album by probably one of the most popular bands and influential bands in music history. So, I definitely had to have it on the list. It's a great album. Like I said, it's one of my favorites. It's definitely up there with, a lot of the other greats, Dark Side of the Moon, things like that for me. But, that's it. That's my 8 albums for the long albums title thread. Well, that's all I got for today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you click on that link down below. Go check out Flat Round and Spun. Like I said, Trevor's got a bunch of great videos on there. It's a great channel. But make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think of this list. Some other great long album titles out there. I mean, I could have went on and on and on. I think there was, I started a list with, I think I started my list with probably 15 or 18 albums to talk about. But I was only going to do 5. I ended up doing 8, so I ended up being a little bit longer. But let me know what you guys think. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. And that's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.